the content of my presentation is that we'll do a quick recap of what has happened, summary of the diagnostic report. Do you guys remember the diagnostic report? Yeah, nah. Nah. Oh, national crisis. Context for policy making, the vision and the values in the plan, our key targets, critical policy challenges, key messages in the plan, feedback on the consultations and the public consultations. Did you guys participate? I'm sure you sent us nice comments. I'm sure you invited us somewhere, right? Nah. Nah. Oh, national crisis number 2. Okay, and then the process going forward. A bit of background, basically the president appointed the National Planning Commission in May 2010, and he basically asked us to take a critical, cross-cutting and long-term view of South Africa, and we must advise the president, cabinet and the country on a long-term vision and plan. So we are pretty lucky. We can just go and disappear, figure out something and then come back and give advice. We've got no executive powers. There's only one cabinet. The commission itself is made of 26 members, and there's only one cabinet member, which is Minister Manuel, and then the rest are just ordinary South Africans. So that's why we're free to do our work. So we're able to say things freely and not feel scared. And we're able to engage South Africans openly, and we're very transparent. Basically, our mandate is to draft a plan and a vision. And we have to engage South Africans on the content of the vision and the plan, because we must all own it. And it's a vision and plan for 2030, long-term planning. We're not doing the short-term planning. And how we started doing this work is that we first released a diagnostic report, which basically looked at the country from last year going back. And in the diagnostic report, it has elements of the vision, and we've identified combating poverty and inequality as key strategic objectives, and we've identified 9 challenges. Okay, but basically within the 9 challenges, we identified 2 major challenges, which is education and jobs. Okay, post the diagnostic, we then released the National Development Plan, which is a draft, and that was released on the 11th of November 2011. And on that day, then the president asked us to engage South Africans on the draft plan before we send it to cabinet. As I said, when we looked at when we released the diagnostic report, it identified the strategic objectives, which is the elimination of poverty and reduction of inequality. Now, here are the 9 key challenges. I'll urge you to go to our website and read them, but the 2 key major challenges that we really identified and really wanted to focus on was that 2 people work and the quality of schools for education for Black learners is poor. Following this diagnostic process, we then had to go consult, and we were everywhere. We did not consult in boardrooms. We went to all provinces, we went to rural areas, and we went, and our purpose was just to listen and to ensure that to engage with South Africans. Do they agree with what we're saying? To engage with key policy makers, are we all on the same page? And as a result of that process, we were then advised that we need to look at 4 other critical areas. Now, these other areas was the rural economy, community safety, social protection, and regional integration. And hence, the draft plan is 15 pages, it's 15 chapters. Now, policy making is it's a very complex process, and especially if we're part of the global community, and therefore we had to look at what are the key drivers of change that changes some of our policy outlooks. And we identified 6, so the West and the East tilt, and the growth of China, interconnectivity, globalization, climate change, it's a real big issue now currently, technology and the growth in Africa. So these are the key drivers of change that we've looked at, and we've said that this is what's it's going to affect how we make policy making in the country. We also did a demographics study, so we had to know now that we're planning for 2030, what will the population look like that we're planning for? And basically, our population projected to grow by 8.5 million to about 58.5 million in 2030. Urban population projected to rise by 11 million to 41 million. People under 80 now less than 30% of the population, and a percentage over 60 below 7%. In the so-called demographic window, we know about the youth bulge, that in 2030 we're going to have a very youthful population. High HIV/AIDS, reduced life expectancy significantly up to 2205. This is now beginning to be reversed with the antiretroviral treatments. So this was what our demographics chapter looks like within the plan. It's a quick summary of it. Like I said earlier, we had a mandate. Part of our mandate is to draft a vision, and our vision is 15 pages long. South Africans have indicated that, whoa, that's a bit too long for a vision, but it's a poem. And basically, you should go and read the poem, but this is a summary of what our vision statement says. And we're basically trying to unite South African across all races and class around a common program, which is to eliminate poverty and reduce inequalities, and citizens to be active in their own development. It's very important, and that's how democracy shall live. And we need to build a capable and a developmental state. I know it's a big debate in the country, and please don't ask me about the definition. It's a very complex thing. And then we need to focus on key capabilities of both people and the country. These capabilities include skills, infrastructure, social security, strong institution, partnerships within the country and with international partners, and the rising economic growth. So we need to promote exports and make the economy more labor absorbing. And there's strong leadership, which people keep asking us about, what do we mean by strong leadership? But basically we're saying that we need strong leadership throughout society, and it's not about the individual, it's about you in your own home, in your own houses. What are you doing as a lead in your communities? It cuts across. Now, in order for the plan to work, there's a need for a paradigm shift, or we're calling it a cycle of development. We need to change the way we're doing things, and we need to do things differently. So therefore, we're calling upon the strong leadership, effective government, and active citizenry, which takes up a big portion, because it's us who are going to make the plan work. We need people to participate in the school governing council meetings, in your own communities. If something's not working, you must speak out and stuff like that. And we're basically saying what the state needs to do is that it needs to create the condition, create opportunities, and the capabilities must be there. And as a result, you'll have the rising living standards, poverty reduction, growth, and employment. And this circle would result in a cohesive society. Isn't that lovely? Where we all love one another. But in order for us to achieve this requires a lot of work. We all need to work together. Like I said, when we drafted post the diagnostic phase and in the process of developing the plan, we identified the two priorities, which is jobs and education. The revised plan, which you're very likely to know about, we've now added the capable and developmental state. Hopefully, society will accept this. And as you can see, the title indicates that the priorities within the plan. So these are the key targets for the plan. The first plan the 11th of November plan that we released, these were the key targets that we identified. In total, there are about 87 proposals. So within each sector, you have about an average of 5-6 key proposals. But these are the main ones that we've highlighted. That employment, 11 million in 2010 to 24 million in 2030. raise income from 50,000 to 120,000, increase the quality of education so that all children have at least 2 years of preschool education, and all children in grade 6 can read, write, and count. And we need to establish a competitive base of infrastructure, human resource, and regulatory framework. We need to reduce poverty and inequality by raising employment, bolstering productivity, and incomes, and broaden the social wage. And we need to ensure that professional and managerial posts better reflect the country's demography. We need to broaden ownership to historical disadvantaged group, provide affordable access quality health care, and we need to produce sufficient energy at competitive prices, ensuring access for poor while reducing CO2 per unit of power. During our consultative phase, the comments that we received, generally, these are the stuff that we've amended and added on, but this is what people would like to see in the new draft plan. We need to ensure that people have access to clean running water in their homes, which is quite important. High-speed broadband internet available to all at a competitive price. Okay, realize the food trade surplus, ensure social security system covering all working people. We need to realize a developmental, capable, and an ethical state. Very important. Welcome. We need to ensure that people live safely and broaden social cohesion. So I'd like you to read the plan. I'm not going to get into details of this because I'd like you to read the draft plan. These are all critical policy challenges and require careful a balancing act in order for us to achieve this. So the key messages in the development plan, I won't go into details because I think some of you would know. We acknowledge the work of the New Growth Path, and we support the priorities identified in the New Growth Path. However, we're saying that the NDP calls for more enforcement through better coordination within government, more explicit understanding that we need high experts to finance higher investments, some reforms to improve the functioning of the labor market, to reduce tension and to ease access for young people. We've made a couple of proposals on the education and skills. Part of these proposals relate to the 2 years of ECD. We did research and we realized that kids who receive 2 years of ECD perform much better at a later stage. We need to introduce the performance agreement for principal and to reduce union and political interference. I'm sure you've picked up that has become a debating point for the Planning Commission. Every time we get attacked, these are the issues that people refer to. And we need to improve the quality of FETs. Okay, with regards to capable state, these are the key priorities that we've identified. I'll leave the presentation and you can read them. But basically, what we're advocating is that we need a capable state in order to implement the policies that we need. Is that it's important to have a capable state. We need a professional public service that can implement those particular policies, and accountability is very important as well. What we're also saying is that we should destabilize the public service. So when a politician comes in to a new power, we've all seen what happens. They come in, they wipe the top management gets wiped off, they get a new DG, the DG gets his own new people, the DDG will then get their new people, and therefore continuity does not happen because obviously a new politician will come in with their ideas, and so we're calling for stability within the public service. Our spatial and settlement patterns, these are the key priorities. Basically that plan adequately for urbanization. We need to find an institutional location for spatial planning. Currently, we don't know where it sits within government, so we're calling for a proper institutional location. Resourcing, fragmentation, the public transport. The diagnostic showed us that poor people usually work far from where they stay. So you find that a person would be earning about 1,000 200, 300, and yet they have to spend like 800 rands on transport. So, and that's because of the distance between home and work, and we're calling for, it's a mixture of things, better planning, better transport systems, economic infrastructure. We need to raise public infrastructure spending to 10% of the GDP. The key priorities within the plan include energy and water security, freight logistics, public transport, support to the mining value chain, broadband. The rural economy, which was one of the added chapters within the plan, has identified a number of priorities. For example, we need to improve small scale and commercial agriculture, high potential agricultural land in former homeland areas identified need to be developed, and we need to plan focus. You need to link the small farmers and the food consumers. It will be very important for food production in the country. And the plan provides an example of how land reform can be fast-tracked. This is a sore point because I think people want to see something happening. And therefore, the plan has identified the weaknesses, and it has made some proposals on how maybe we should fast-track the land reform process. The environmental sustainability, yes, we've got a chapter, not the low carbon chapter, which has been revised. I think out of all the chapters, when you see the new draft plan, this is the particular chapter that's going to be revised dramatically, because it's also a sensitive issue. But basically what we're saying is that the environmental sustainability covers all natural resources. We need a scorecard approach proposed to assess the impact of the environment. We need to introduce an economy-wide price on carbon, so the carbon tax, we've said something there. Support for renewables, but concern raised about the institutional arrangement. And we need to transition to a more energy efficient and low carbon economy at a pace that makes sense for us. Okay, when it comes to health and wellness, basically we're saying we should all start behaving when it comes to our health. We should eat healthy. We should stop getting drunk and start a fight in the pubs, because we've noticed that that has increased. It's a burden for the health system. I mean, some of the stuff is unnecessary. Us going there, getting drunk, fighting, we could have avoided those type of things. Our sexual behaviors, we should be more responsible. Then the plan also calls for support for the national health insurance. The blockages that need to be dealt with is that the HR capacity within the sector. We need to improve the quality of healthcare, lowering the cost of the private healthcare, and we need to build a district health system complete with patient database. Community safety. I think you're all familiar with it, but the key message within this chapter is professionalizing the police. I think that's very important. I think that's one step of addressing these particular issues. I'll skip that one. Social protection, long-term vision for comprehensive social security. Social security reform have to balance border coverage with rising employment. So we need to align and rationalization of institutions, short-term reform focusing on broadening coverage of existing social security benefits, long-term priorities including mandatory savings, risk benefits, and health insurance. Corruption, we've proposed the three-pronged strategy, basically enforcement, prevention, and education. Enforcement relating to ensuring that anti-corruption agencies have requisite resources and independence. Prevention, focus on systems, institution, arrangements, and accountability. Education, we need to understand social dimensions of corruption. And then we need a whole procurement reform. And one of the proposals that big tenders, we should centralize big tenders. South Africa and the region. This is one of the added chapters to the plan, but we're calling for greater regional economic integration is necessary for long-term development. Many of our problems, such as energy and food security, can be solved by taking a regional perspective, because especially all our agreements, we all work together, we're part of the global community. Obstacles include infrastructure, border post corruption, we all know about that. And we need to cover global links, and we need for a break into faster growing markets. Social cohesion. The plan is, it's not about us raising the flag all at once or us treating it like an event, like the 2010. We are calling for more proper dialogues on how social cohesion should happen. But we're saying that it is necessary to transform the country and the economy while reducing poverty and enhancing opportunities. Okay, and we're also calling for a broader partnership. And that's basically what the chapter on nation building talks about. The social compact and this act of citizenry. How are we going to get it right? And in order for the plan to survive, the social compact is important. And we call upon business, civil society, everyone has a role to play. Post 11/11, we've had about 155 meetings with different stakeholders. These dialogues were different. It was not a question of we come, you make a presentation, and then you ask questions. It was detailed. What are the trade-offs? What are you prepared to live with? What can't you live with? And we listened to people's concerns, and it was tense. It was on average about minimum 3-hour dialogues about how the plan should look like. And we've had about thousands of submissions. People have sent us submissions through our comments at NPC Online, on our social pages, Facebook, Twitter. We've received that. Pre the plan, we had the jam. So we had quite a lot of detailed dialogues and conversations about how our country's plan should look like. Generally, there's a high degree of goodwill. So I think people generally support the draft plan. I mean, if people have concerns, it'll be usually like 95% they're agreeing, and then there's the 5% where they're not agreeing. So it's very similar. It's like with the unions. It's like I think we're in a 95% agreement, 5% where we're not in agreement, but we have to do the balancing thing because that 5% can destroy everything. So, and we've had conversations with everyone. We've had all the majority of the ruling parties. We've had conversations with them, detailed conversations with them. The religious structures, we've had conversations with them. The Big Four, we had a conversation with like Catholic, Muslim, Jewish, ZCC. So we've really tried. There are areas that that requires change, and that's what we're doing now. Our work that's happening from now till July is that we're looking at all these the comments that we've received, and we're trying to figure out what needs to be changed and to ensure that people can see that we are engaging, and we're not just saying that we're engaging. So when you see the draft, you'll say, indeed, the National Planning Commission did consult. So the process going forward is that the revised plan will be sent to Cabinet in July. While the implementation will be led by government, but we call upon everyone in society to help us implement the plan. And in the post-July, the Commission will continue to mobilize support for the plan, and we will work on a broader social compact. We'll conduct research to support policy and planning, and would advise government on how to implement the plan, and we'll work with the Department of Performance Monitoring and Evaluation to monitor progress on the plan. Thank you.